I don't know if you heard it, Carl, but I literally.
Beard just resubscribed for 9 months.
Do you know what it is? It's the jacket.
It's all about that jacket. Hey there, friends.
What's up?
I'm back. Oh my gosh, second time today, let me tell you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome back to the live stream. My name is Jeff Fritz, and I'm joined by, over here, look at this. It's Carl and Richard.
And that's Carl Franklin.
Yeah, there we are.
Wait a minute. Switch that. Reverse it.
Turn it around.
It's Richard.
I just found out today that Gene Wilder died like 6 years ago.
That was a while ago.
It was like news on the internet.
A while ago, it was news on the internet.
It's being repassed around as news. New news.
I decided to get dressed a little bit here.
Dress
the part.
I didn't know there was a clothing requirement or a dress code for a stream. What's up with that?
Well,
sharp is part of your username.
That's right. I gotta look
sharp.
Gotta look great. How's it going, chat room? Everybody's saying hello. I saw some of these folks a little bit earlier today writing code on stream.
You've already been streaming today.
Oh, if you're gonna do something once, why not do it a second or a third or a fourth time?
No. This is, we do record multiple shows in a day too, right? This is our second interview recording. So, although
we're actually here to do .NET Rocks, right?
Yeah.
So people thought they were tuning in to see Jeff and friends, and now it's all .NET Rocks.
And .NET Rocks is taking over. It says it there on the title. .NET Rocks.
Okay.
Talking about Blazor.
Yeah. So how we usually start a show is that Richard and I start recording. He records him. I record me. I record a sync track. You're recording you.
Yeah.
Right, Jeff?
Yep.
And then we put all these files together. So you're going to see the sausage being made, folks.
Yeah. Especially an intro, because an intro is always a little sausagey.
Yeah.
You know what?
So Richard and I are already recording.
All right. I will kick that off in just a second. I'm going to turn my closed captioning so that it captures all of us.
Oh,
that's fancy.
Actually, it is. It is already.
It is already.
Nope, I didn't.
Nope. Well, let me try something. This is Carl, yada, yada, yada. Nope, it's not getting me.
Yeah, it's supposed to be coming off of...
Technology.
I know, right?
I'll never understand it.
Oh, wait. That's the wrong one. It's this one. All right, give it one more shot, Carl.
Hey, this is Carl. There you go.
Got it. Fantastic. And I'll kick off recording.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, so the first thing that we usually do when we start recording is hold our breath for 5 seconds, and that gives us the ambient noise in each of our rooms, which sometimes there's no noise and sometimes there's something. So whatever it is, we can take it out.
Right, like I'm up on the post right now, and I'm right beside my refrigerator, and it makes a certain amount of noise, so it's good to have that removed.
Yeah. All right, so hold your breath for 5 seconds. Here we go. Welcome back to .NET Rocks. This is Carl Franklin.
And this is Richard Campbell.
And we're here with Jeff Fritz, but we're actually on his live Twitch show while he's on our time-shifted podcast.
Right. So if you're listening to the podcast, you can probably go and find a YouTube video that is from his Twitch stream that is us making the show.
Yeah, and it should be fun. And you get to see what we said before we just said what we said. Right?
Yeah. Well, we edit. We're not that smart. It's all edited.
When it comes down to it, we're just a couple of schlubs on the internet. All right, so I've got a Better Know a framework for you, Richard. Roll the music.
All right. And, first lie. There's the first lie.
There's the first lie.
I had music.
Could it please?
Usually do have music. It's called editing. We put that in after the fact.
Put it in afterwards. Yeah, we don't.
Oh, don't worry. We know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So we can pretend that it's the crazy.
Let's do that. In fact, we'll come out of the edit point now. Let's talk a little about the music.
All right.
Ready?
That is the stupidest music I've ever heard.
And yet so popular.
It is.
All right. What do you got?
People get mad at me when I disparage that little ditty.
Oh, no. Huge
but they'll love it.
Yeah. It's true.
I want to run on the treadmill with that.
It'd be more like a lope, not a run. A trot. All right. Well, anyway, what I have today is I don't know how new this product is, but it's new to me. It's called Adobe XD.
What's XD?
And you can get it for free, and I'll add a link to it. Get this. It's a designer, but it's more than a designer. It's a collaboration tool. So wireframe, design, prototype, present, and share amazing experiences for web, mobile, voice, and more, all in one app. XD is made for designers, creative teams, and organizations that need to design at scale. It's everything you need to work more efficiently, collaborate effortlessly, and create and manage your design team. So what I've done is I've linked to a video where Microsoft is actually using this to design the next version of Windows.
Wow.
And so Microsoft is using it, Dropbox, AT&T, Sonos. There's it looks pretty interesting, and right now it's free. You can just download it. So I haven't downloaded it, of course. I saw it this morning, but just looking through the videos, man, it looks pretty compelling.
It's almost OneNote-y, isn't it?
I think it's a combination of a couple of things. Like you take a good designer, like a wireframe designer, and then you add collaboration so that you can show people immediately what new features are going to look like and work like. And that's pretty cool, I got to say. I'm looking forward to checking it out.
That's cool.
Well, that's what I got, Richard. Who's talking to us today?
Grabbed a comment off of show 1507. So that's back a bit. That's January of 2018. So what, about a year and a half ago, a little bit more. That was a show we did with one Jeff Fritz talking about ASP.NET in 2018.
Yeah.
And that was back, talking about web forms and all those good things, what was actually going to happen with .NET Core. And there's a bunch of different comments there. Folks were talking about various things, and Jeff was good to reply to a bunch of them. But I got to read this one from Tommy Parnell. It's right at the top of the stack where he says, I just wanted to say how nice and polite Jeff Fritz sounds, even when schooling us on not to use SQL statements in ASP.NET files. What class act? And I commented at the time, again, this was 18 months ago, I said, hey, Tommy, Jeff doesn't only sound nice, he really is nice.
He is.
I think he's the right guy in the right role. And that made Jeff blush, which is good. That's the fun of the video.
But you couldn't see him blushing because of the sparkly Prince purple jacket.
That's right.
Masking the blush.
So, Tommy, I think we exchanged some messages back and forth about this message at the time, but I never did send you a copy of Music to Code By. So, a copy of Music to Code By, it's on its way to you. And if you'd like a copy of Music to Code By, write a comment on the website at .netrocks.com or on Facebook. We publish every show there. And if you comment there and I read it on the show, we'll send you a copy of Music to Code By.
And definitely follow us on Twitter. He's at Rich Campbell. I'm at Carl Franklin. Send us a tweet. Be a prince.
Wait a sec.
Prince. Or wait, be a Michael Jackson. Is that a Michael Jackson jacket or a Prince jacket?
This is a blazer, I'll tell you.
Oh, Blazor.
What tie-in? It's there now. That makes sense.
It's a Prince blazer. All right. I got to introduce you formally, even though, here we go. So I got to introduce you formally, Jeff. So Jeff Fritz is a senior program manager in Microsoft Developer Edition, working on some of the latest web technologies. As a longtime developer and app architect with experience in large and small applications across a variety of verticals, he knows how to build for performance and practicality. You can find his first book, Learn ASP.NET Core in 24 Hours, on Amazon and other places where dead trees are sold. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, you can catch Jeff hosting a live video stream called Fritz and Friends at live.jeffreyfritz.com.
There went the network.
And wasn't me. And is that link still correct, or is it you should just be sending you to Twitch?
Wow, there it went. And we're back.
Well, I introduced you just fine, so
there we go. All right,
fix you, and then we'll get back to work.
I've got a little bit of shine coming off you there. I'm just trying to.
It's just the lights up there.
Yeah, for some reason, it's like green screen correcting you for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, that's weird.
Whose dog is that?
I don't know why. That's the family dog. And I'm the
That's
only one
your
here. Nice. Nice. This is live. Can you tell, friends? Yeah.
Doing a little correction on.
Do you want me to just turn this overhead light off?
Yeah, that might work.
All right.
Because, yeah, it's just got a weird reflection off of you.
Yeah, I see. Your arms are. It looks like an MTV music video from 1988.
Yeah. There we go. I can hear the delivery guy driving off.
Nice. That's why the dog was barking.
Yeah. Delivery people. Oh,
Now
much
he's
better.
But he's dark.
Yeah.
Now
so
I'm
now I
dark, you know,
can. But now I can help
have
you
a
out
little
with that.
trick that I do. I pull up Notepad, make a big white field on the screen. Look at that. We have light.
Not just that, but I can bump up the contrast and play with the brightness. There we go. Look at that. We can do video things here.
Yeah,
Thank you,
that's even
Greenie
better.
996 there in chat.
All right.
All right.
So welcome back to the show, Jeff.
Oh, thanks so much. What, is this 4 or have I made the 5 timers club?
I don't know. Let me look it up. There's 1,650 shows, right? How long should it take me to count them all?
Select star from shows where
Select count.
show
Your math is off, brother.
tests
Oh,
equals
First show was in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will be show number 7.
Wow. All right. So I'm past the 5 timers club.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the significance of 5?
I don't know.
It's that thing on Saturday Night Live, the 5 timers club they do.
Okay.
If you make it
I haven't
up.
watched Saturday Night Live since the 80s. No, it was the 90s,
The 90s.
I think.
It's fallen off the radar for me.
You know, I wish there was an intelligence knob on the television. They got one called brightness, but it don't work.
You're not wrong.
Is that a Gallagher line? That's
Gallagher.
a Gallagher line.
Yeah, Gallagher.
Yeah.
Now you have to
Had a 90s reference, or 80s reference, actually.
It's old.
Oh my goodness.
Old.
Yes.
So besides the Twitch stream thing going well for you, Jeff?
Oh my
Like-
gosh. You know what? This has been tremendous. This is really like a reinventing of how I've engaged with folks in our developer audience, in our developer community. I had always been speaking at various conferences, and when I looked at my travel schedule, 10, 12, 15 events a year, and there was one event where I flew to Germany, gave a keynote, turned around and came home. I'm like, why am I flying like that?
Yeah.
And this has just picked up and been really, really good. We're closing in on, we just crossed 7,500 followers here on the stream. We're closing in on 8,000 followers. So numbers are moving. They're going in the right direction. We've got viewer counts that look like conference sessions, conferences, when we do longer streams, and that's great. That fits a great spot for me to be able to reach folks and not just talk at them, but have real conversations. Morning talk radio,
It's odd to me that people would watch you write code. Like, I've obviously participated in your streams before, and we've done the Dev Intersection TV stuff together, and or virtual Dev Intersection, I think we're supposed to call it. There's so many names. And what I think is hilarious is fundamentally it's like a perpetual series of digressions.
Yes.
Right? You work on something for a while, a question is asked or a conversation starts up, and then you digress into whatever that is.
Absolutely.
That's on the thing.
Right. And
Well, you know what? Car Talk proved to me that good radio can be 5% about cars and 95% about people.
Right.
yes.
And that was the winning combination there. Everybody has a car, so the audience was pretty wide. But I know that's not the case with you. But people just love to watch other people do what they do well.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
This is why folks like watching pro athletes, whether it's baseball, football, hockey, where they enjoy watching folks play video games on Twitch, on Mixer, YouTube, because they're really good at what they do. So
Yeah.
to watch folks that know how to write code well, ask questions, and get good responses,
Yeah, right.
It's nice, right? It's
Cool.
for technical folks, right? That two-way street is it's very welcome for some folks.
Really interesting, yeah.
So I guess we should talk about some ASP.NET Forms and Blazor and stuff.
Gosh,
Wearing Blazor.
got the look. Let me tell you, my friend. I've become a huge fan of Blazor.
And this thing is a product now, right? Like we've done I feel like .NET Rocks has sort of captured the whole story because we got Sanderson the day he did the original presentation at NDC to talk when it was complete madness. Yeah,
it was. Oh my goodness, you're not wrong. But now, right, Blazor's actually become several products, right? As a product name, it's not just right that initial template, that initial prototype we saw from Steve Sanderson at NDC, where it was let's compile some Razor code with C# and run it on top of the mono runtime on top of WebAssembly in the browser.
Yeah, at that time it wasn't mono; it was worse than that. It was like this third-party abandoned open project.
Yeah,
it's a part of C#.
Yeah, right.
It was the client-side story, because now it seems like Blazor's diversified into a server-side story as well.
It's a server-side story. You can package up exactly components into libraries, deploy them as NuGet packages. It's the rebirth of the component ecosystem.
Yeah.
For component vendors.
Right, and especially if you were a fan of web forms, it's going to be very familiar. I mean, minus the tooling. Tooling isn't there yet, but right, UI tooling.
Exactly.
But the component model that gets shipped down to the client. The difference is now it's just smarter code.
Right, it's smarter code. It compiles and runs. Well, your choice of client-side or server-side. And what we're trying to encourage those folks who have been doing ASP.NET web forms for a long time, we're trying to show them that you can bring that same component-based architecture and run server-side. And, right, you get this really interesting interaction where everything renders server-side, but we're going to traffic those changes down to the client using SignalR. And you don't even have to think about that SignalR hookup. It just works for you. In the background. So
yeah, I mean, SignalR is just an add-on to ASP.NET. So you just add up a host and not a controller. What do they call them? Hubs.
Yes.
Yep. Well, I haven't done SignalR in a couple months.
Well, when we're using server-side Blazor, the framework automatically adds the hub and controls the requests going back and forth for you. So, right, where you could do this with some sort of JavaScript framework or any other type of client, Java clients, .NET clients, .NET Standard clients, you can interact with a Blazor hub using those technologies. It almost happens automatically behind the scenes when you're using the server-side Blazor technology.
Now, my only concern coming from a performance perspective with the server-side Blazor is how well it's going to scale. But are you seeing this tech targeted at the internal apps that we've been building on with web forms and things for years, or am I going to build public-facing stuff with Blazor?
Oh, there's definitely the ability to build public-facing stuff, right? Because it does the output caching on the server. So just as if you were doing web forms or MVC and you were doing output caching on the server, you're going to get similar performance where after it runs the first time, if the same arguments and things are passed in, you can output cache and you'll see very, very quick performance coming back down to the client. Now, I mean, when you're sending things down to the client with server-side Blazor, you do have that very, very small footprint because it's just the change in HTML that it's sending, and it repaints the screen appropriately. Just in the same way that folks might have done that with, Ruby folks were doing that with their version of Ajax panels. I forget what they called it. But in JavaScript folks just sending down the change in data and repainting things, it's the exact same performance. Very small network footprint, compared, of course, to that very large client-side Blazor that's sending down whole DLLs to be run on the browser.
If you want to do something a little more clienty, you could take the code that's being generated from server-side Blazor and run it client-side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at the price of having to haul a version of the .NET framework to your browser.
Yeah.
Right. So
But that only happens once, right?
it happens once. It ends up getting cached there, but it's that time to first bite, right? That time to first click, time to first experience that you want to make sure folks have a good experience. So there's also, right, in my experimentation and the things that we've done here on stream together, and the chat room is keeping watch on me here. Client-side Blazor, when you're working locally, feels instantaneous, of course, because it's shipping to the same machine. Server-side Blazor is great also, but what if there was a way to crisscross them both? And there's nothing to do that yet, but if I could deliver my first bytes with server-side Blazor, get it rendered on the server, and get the client-side stuff lit up, that stuff is where it would be very, very compelling. And
I agree.
folks in the chat room are saying that Blazor means reduced JavaScript-related stress for them. Yes.
Oh, I totally get that. Anything that I can write in C# is a good day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder if that's an anachronistic position now. Is it because of our experiences living in static type land and working in C# for years that we feel good about this? It's really interesting to me to look at brand new developers who probably learned JavaScript in school, and this is like their first way of thinking. Do they take to C#? Is C# a breath of fresh air for them? Oh, I don't have to do these things.
I'm talking about me,
Yeah.
not them. Screw those guys.
Well, the numbers show there's a lot more JavaScript developers out there than there are .NET developers, C# developers. So how do we encourage those folks to join the .NET community? Mm-hmm. Do we show them all the cool tools that we have, the great unit test features, the ability to use Visual Studio Code? Well, they love Visual Studio Code. And when you start showing them... I'm sorry?
They love TypeScript.
They love TypeScript. I wonder... Exactly. As we get into C#8, there's some really great features there to be able to use those and run them client-side or run them with a big server-side Blazor install. Is that something compelling? Maybe. For some folks, it certainly is. Yeah.
Well, and I do see in the chat there, General Palace saying, yeah, I learned JavaScript in college, and I did find C# a breath of fresh air. So, and it's exactly the question I sort of have, because I know my perspective is distorted by 40 years of writing code. It's like, what feels new to you? What do you enjoy? How the way that you like to work? Is the compiler constraint frustrating to you or relieving to you? Because I've just too many of them to even really have an opinion anymore. They all work. They all have their pluses and minuses. I don't know that anything delights me at this particular moment. Like Python's entertaining me at the moment, but I know that just because I'm weird.
Well, right. Python is interesting, right? Because Jupyter Notebooks makes it really easy to start tinkering and testing with some of the machine learning capabilities that are out there, artificial intelligence types of things. But you can do the same thing with ML.NET now. Right, you can use that with .NET Core, run it where you please, and connect to it even with client-side Blazor. So, okay, now we're getting a lot more flexible, right? You always have this idea of .NET runs anywhere and everywhere that you want to be. Right. Sounds like a credit card.
It is.
It is, right? So I was talking to somebody who's been running C# on a Raspberry Pi or on a little IoT device, and they're using it to control, right? They're using it to control different things around the house. Terrific, right? Building with Xamarin. Okay, that's cool. Mono for games. Okay, but as we
really mean Unity?
Yeah. All right. I mean Unity.
You really mean you? I mean, look, Unity's kicking butt, man. Like, for better or worse, like it's extraordinary to be made. There's a new version of Kerbal coming.
Yeah, right.
Everybody just said, "What's Kerbal?"
All the smart people know what Kerbal is.
Both of them.
Did you know there's a category on Twitch for folks playing Kerbal?
Oh yeah, Kerbal's its own arena without a doubt.
Yeah.
This is the even Randall Munroe, XKCD. He's got a comic that says, my time working at NASA, I understood orbital mechanics this much. I start playing Kerbal, now I understand orbital mechanics.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about scaling up once it becomes important to you because you're playing a game. I see the same thing with Minecraft, right? Because folks can now really program Minecraft with things like MakeCode. They can get in and they can really start to automate the construction of things. But it's no web forms, man. Give me that post back. Give me that session state back, right?
You want to build...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't say that.
Don't say the V word.
No.
Actually wanted to learn any of that stuff, we needed to build forms over data.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is still a non-trivial chunk of the job, day in, day out. How do I present information to the workers in a company so that they can make intelligent decisions, or they can contribute to that data set over time? Like that, doing well is just not a small problem, and it is every time I get a new tool, how do I test that new tool? I build something forms over data.
Yes. Forms over data. And when you look at all the things that web forms tried to give you, visual designer, easy drag and drop, easy data binding of these things, you were able to build a grid with create, read, update, delete features so you can see the details of those records quickly and easily. It's a little bit harder to scaffold and do those things in some of the newer frameworks we have, but we're working on putting together a little bit of documentation to get folks to port those concepts that they had from ASP.NET Web Forms over to Blazor, whether it's server-side, client-side. We want to focus on these folks on server-side first, because that's the version we're going to see Microsoft support out of the gate here with .NET Core 3.
Sure, and we were expecting that to ship as part of Core 3, so like end of September, early October kind of thing.
Right.
End of September, part of .NET Conf.
Right.
So
we got old people in here shouting Microsoft Access and Visual Fox Pro. No.
Oh, come on, man. Hey, at least I'm not saying InfoPath. Okay? Right? See, everybody just went silent on InfoPath. Right? What? Yeah, that thing. Oh, yeah.
But that was big core forms building tools. It had a fairly narrow window of time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I don't know anybody. I know lots of folks who started in Access and then became programmers, like moved over to more traditional dev tools. I don't know a lot of InfoPath people ever did that.
No.
So right now, today, September 3rd, you need the Visual Studio 2019 in order to run the bits with Blazor, right?
Yes. Yes. 2017 doesn't support it anymore.
Right. So you got to get yourself a playground and go at it. Have you done, you obviously have done it, but what kinds of things have you done with Blazor, Jeff?
Oh, gosh. So we've been working on stream. There's two separate projects that we've been tinkering with. The first project, and the one that it kind of has a little bit more legs, I think, is a client-side Blazor application that's going to set up and allow a nonprofit organization, a place that specializes in doing a little equine therapy for folks that have physical challenges, mental challenges, these types of things. Yeah. But they need to schedule their volunteers.
Of horse people, don't you?
I do. I know a lot of horse people.
Makes horse sense.
Yes, it's all because of the JavaScript. That's why I know, because horses love JavaScript.
Horses love JavaScript.
I think this is true.
There they go now. So we've been building this application to allow volunteers to key in their availability, see it on a calendar, and eventually have managers be able to view a report of here's when folks are available to volunteer and schedule lessons. So it's a scheduling application, and we spent a lot of time. We've evolved from Blazor Preview 6 through 7, and now we're on Preview 8 at this point here. As we get ready for the release of .NET Core 3, but that's client side. We've been learning and working with server side Blazor, building a bot actually for a couple of friends' chat rooms. It's going to be built with a distributed nature so that it can host multiple chat rooms at the same time. Now, chatbots are a real thing on Twitch. You see them in Discord, YouTube, right, Mixer, all the other platforms that you want to automate interactions. So we're building this in a way that uses server-side Blazor to render and present some of the content, but for the interactions with each one of the channels on that platform, we're using the actor model with aka.net from our friends like Aaron Stanner, right?
Yep.
So we're learning how to do that and building and doing this rich interaction, building our own components, being able to reuse them has really taught us how to stop thinking of a whole page as a whole page again, right? Because we got wrapped up in that with MVC and with Razor pages. But let's get back into the component model. Let's start thinking about how we can build those components smaller and reuse them everywhere. Can I tell you what a challenge it is to go back and try and think of, well, how do I make a time control? Right? What's a time component look like? And it's
that scenario.
Yeah.
I can imagine things like client-side tree view explorers would be the perfect kind of thing for a Blazor component.
Oh my god! Sure, absolutely. Grids.
These server-side controls, right? So they're just rendering into HTML anyway.
Yeah. But you're going to, instead of writing the JavaScript around there to manage and do the interactions, now you can write C#, just like you were used to doing, manage those interactions with a web form, with a WinForms control, right? Web forms, you still wanted to write JavaScript when you were in ASP.NET Web Forms, so you could automate it, make it look great in the browser. Well, now we got to teach all our web forms friends, well, do it in C#, and let's take all that script and stuff, and let's stash all that client-side static file nonsense in the www root folders that we have in our ASP.NET Core applications.
And you're basically writing C# code to respond to the events that be related to people's interactions with that. You don't have to worry about the JavaScript around any of that.
Exactly. Right.
To me, I think the eventing model is the biggest thing. It's always a battle in JavaScript to deal with an eventing model.
Oh yes, right. The on click. Well, is around that click. Exactly. Did you finish typing? Did the value change? What exactly was the event that occurred? Well, we've already got
you got this global variable out here that's usurping all of your events.
Yes.
You knew that, but you're probably not going to figure it out.
You're not going to find it. No. So as we're seeing C# and .NET evolve on both client and server with Blazor, now we've got to evolve our tools so that we can hook into these new locations where we're building and debugging. Server-side Blazor is a lot easier to debug right now because we know how to debug server-side stuff. Client-side Blazor is a whole nother ball of wax because, it's running in the browser. So there's tools that will allow you to, in Google Chrome, start up and attach to the debugger. And when I show the chat room on Twitch, what it looks like to debug and see C# in the debugger in Google Chrome or in Microsoft Edge that has the Chrome rendering engine, it's kind of, it messes with your mind here. People aren't expecting to see
explode, right? Like, boom. What?
Yeah.
C# in the browser?
Right. Wait till they see VB or F# in the browser.
Yeah.
That could be a thing.
But I also see that would just be an additional DLL you would load into the browser running inside of WebAssembly that provides the debugging hooks. And then when you go to a deployed version, you just wouldn't deploy that DLL. Because that also feels to me like a huge vulnerability too.
Oh, for sure. I'm not sure if it's an extra DLL or if it's an extra service that stands up and you're connecting over into that debugger service and it's trafficking the stuff back and forth. I forget exactly how it's working, but it is definitely something you don't want to enable that debugging on the client side. So it is an interesting feature to be sure.
I like to ask everybody when we talk Blazor, what is the component vendor ecosystem looking like these days? And do you have high hopes for it, or do you think people are done with those kinds of large toolkits that they purchase?
Oh, it's coming back. It's coming back like gangbusters. The folks
it's coming back in open source world, but what about in the commercial vendors?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So our friends at Progress, formerly Telerik, they've got a Blazor toolkit they're bringing back. The folks at DevExpress, they have a component library they're bringing around. I've also seen there's a new company on the scene, Radzen. They've started up and they've got a tremendous set of controls that they're bringing. Controls, components. I guess we're calling them components in the Blazor world.
Right.
And I think Sync Fusion is also getting ready. They've got some components to deploy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I haven't heard, and I haven't really gone after. I know our friends at Infragistics have been talking about Blazor. I'm not sure if they have any components yet. I haven't paid too much attention to anything coming off of them just yet. But it is absolutely coming around.
I'm just getting started with Visual Studio 2019 and Blazor. In other words, downloaded it, installed it, haven't done diddly squat yet. But I'm planning on it. I'm planning on spending a couple of days deep diving in. So I want to download some of these tool kits and try them out. I actually have a new project that I'm speccing out, and it looks like a perfect candidate for Blazor.
Cool.
Whether it's server-side, client-side, I don't know yet. Probably a little of both, but yeah.
Honestly, I look at, if you're going to bring Blazor into a project, you would bring it in the same place that you would bring one of the SPA frameworks. If you would consider Angular, if you would consider React or Vue to manage and run an application, that's also someplace that you could consider Blazor.
Sure.
You know, I think there's a tremendous upside. There's a tremendous opportunity that's coming here. WebAssembly is going to be a big thing in the next 5 years. It's in every browser, thanks to our friends Spectre and Meltdown. Everybody had to update their browsers because the processors were vulnerable, and everybody got support for WebAssembly, and everybody, even their phones, run it.
There's a couple of comments here I want to read.
Sure.
Legendary Moo says, DevExpress recently announced they were not going to do a React version of their tools in favor of Blazor.
There you go.
And Rambling Geek says, do it live, Carl.
Hang on. I might be able to help with that.
Unboxing, right? That might be fun.
Do it live!
Do it live. I've got 3 Stream Decks here, Carl,
Jeff,
with sound effects.
With the effects panel. That's a bad thing.
Throw me a freaking bone here.
I'm just saying.
Sounds like Mondays.
We can have a little bit of fun. Absolutely.
Very cool.
So I'm just making sure the chat room usually has access to run some of my sound effects, and we're not going to let them have access to them and interrupt our fine conversation here, gentlemen.
Like, what would you? Here's another question from the chat. What would you not recommend Blazor for? Asking as someone on a team embarking on a new project where it's Angular versus React versus Blazor versus Vue versus other.
Let's do the mid-body break here, and then you do segue to that question.
Yeah, okay. Let's do that. Hey, guys, hold that thought while we pause for this brief but yet very important message. And we're back with Jeff Fritz. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Richard Campbell, and we're talking about Blazor. We want to talk about web forms in Blazor a little bit, but there is a question in the chat room from the Hugo Doll. What would you not recommend Blazor for? And I'm asking as someone on a team embarking on a new project where it's Angular versus React versus Vue versus Blazor versus other. Well, I mean, and as we just said, I think if you're considering any of these Angular, React, Vue, UI frameworks, JavaScript frameworks, consider Blazor.
Yeah, we're early in the life cycle for Blazor. Very early. We're still coming out of previews for server-side capabilities. Client-side, it has a way to go before that's going to be certified as as RTM, as publicly supported by Microsoft. They're still developing and figuring out exactly how all the client-side tooling is going to work out. But if it's something that you could do in one of those JavaScript user interface frameworks, you can consider it. I wouldn't consider it if you have a team that is very well versed in those JavaScript frameworks. If they're
the skill set matters here, right?
Yeah.
If you've got people.
Yeah.
I was looking at a tool on the last show called Visual Recode, which it's an automatic converter from ASP.NET. I'm sorry, from .NET to .NET Core, but it's focused on ASP.NET. So it'll convert Web API, .NET Web API to ASP Core Web API. It'll also do WCF to Web API, ASP.NET Core, and WCF to gRPC.
Now that's
So
an interesting
that
one,
begs
isn't
the
it?
question, do you think that there's room for a tool that will take a big, giant web forms project and convert it to Blazor somehow?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's hang on, doing that kind of conversion is not for the faint of heart. Let's start there.
No.
Right? You think about all the things that you need to convert. You got to take that global ASAX file. You've got to convert it so that instead of launching and doing all your startup things for web forms, well, now it's got to do all the startup things for .NET Core inside of a startup CS file. You've got to take all of those ASPX files, convert them into Razor templates, and you don't have one-to-one conversion there. Those things aren't identical, right? You might be able to do something to make those data source components migrate. And if you have those data source components, just get out. Just leave. I don't want to hear from you, okay?
But
Stop it.
philosophically, Blazor server side is sort of spa-ish, right? You're staying on a page, loading components in.
Yep.
There's lots of web form stuff built out there that's multi-page. So you've got a serious philosophical difference there.
Well, they're multi-page, but people wanted them to feel spa-like, right? So that you clicked and it real quick refreshed. You didn't want that flash of the screen. So people did.
The UI is the same page, but they're actually going to different URLs on the back end.
Yeah.
The other one that's good, I think is going to get you is what third-party components did you use in web forms? And how does map, into Blazor?
Right.
So, I mean, some of the vendors are clearly going. Like, I don't know if the guys like Telerik are actually looking at their web forms control and saying, can I make a path to my Blazor controls? But boy, it'd be nice for those customers if they did.
There's some.
Well, I think that there's a story here for not conversion like a tool that you're going to push a button and get a Blazor app, but for consultancies to go forward with conversions. That would be fun because now you find out what you can and can't do, right? Once you pull on the string of an ASP.NET Web Forms application and all these impossible things fall out, you'll know whether you can do it or not.
Sure.
What you're making a powerful point there, Carl, which is this is very much a one-time activity, and no company that does something else but also depends on web forms needs to get good at web forms migration.
No,
this is a service hire.
That's right. It's a service.
And folks that are in web forms applications now that are maintaining them, that want to at least be able to consider doing this type of migration, this type of rewrite in the future, they've got to do. There's simple things that they can consider. Let me re-say that. There are some simple things that they can consider to help get them on the right path there, right? Take some of those class libraries that you're working on, some of that common functionality that's in your application that's just C# classes. Pull it out of that project, put it into a class library, make it a .NET standard class library so that you can reuse that logic when you get to .NET Core or into a .NET standard based Blazor client-side application. That initial first migration, just get your code. It's .NET Framework right now.
Right.
But move it into a .NET standard project. It's a huge first step to get you in the right place.
The Hugo Dahl says CAAS, conversions as a service.
Sure.
I would see more
like to be
service, which quickly becomes crisis as a service.
Right.
Yeah. Snoopaloopy makes a good point here, hoping libraries that D3.js get adopted to Blazor. There are some folks that are building a little bridge there so that from Blazor you can call into D3 and get the graphics happening on the client side using this JavaScript interop bridge. But we've also got our friends at companies like Uno that are allowing us to use XAML inside the browser. Now that's a whole
awful Silverlight-ish, aren't you?
You had to say the SL word.
Let's say the S word. Yeah, okay, I get it.
Look, Silverlight had needed a plugin, and it hurt to run it. And was it ever going to be as good as Flash?
Well, no. The real question you have to ask: was it ever as bad as Flash? Which is no.
Never say as good.
As much memory.
Okay. All right.
Nothing memory like Flash. Nothing still leaks memory like Flash. Like to this day, they're going to turn the thing off in 2020. Everybody's going to find out they actually had 16 gigs of RAM. Like who knew?
So check out this Asteroids WASM game. That it's a Blazor Asteroids game you play in the browser. That's it.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, right, there's a lot of things that we can do with the technology, right? The question's going to become, should we do these with the technology? Right? How many web forms applications are out there that, you know what, we need to just rethink it anyway? Do we really need to rewrite this? Can we?
Yeah, and it's a strong case for not. Rarely are rewrites that important. It's a rethinking. The usual reason that apps get dismantled like this is that they need to go mobile, right? They need to change form factor. Like I've done the show on making ASP.NET web forms work in mobile. It's not easy to do, and it's an opportunity to consider a re-engineering.
Well, and right, there's other form factors like you're saying that we want to be able to get our applications into. But I mean, if you've got a web forms application, it's running on, get it upgraded to .NET Framework 4.8, and you're still going to get support for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
So if you don't need to add significant new functionality to it, don't.
Right. And arguably, if and when, like I think about, who was it? Was it Fernando Guerrero that did the VB6 to .NET migration tool?
Yeah.
And it took him years to make it great. But if you were all the way up to the current patch version of VB6, you were able to, in those later years, run that tool and just take it and move it on.
Oh, yeah.
So if you take the time to get to Framework 4.8, get up to the most current version of the framework that directly supports web forms, if and when great migration tools appear, they're going to depend on that. So you've done the best thing you could for an app you're not going to migrate now because it's just too difficult to do.
Oh, absolutely. And right, folks like our friends at Mobilize.net, they do a lot of that stuff. Getting you into the latest version of .NET Framework, modernizing a VB6 application, it makes your application, even if you get 90% there, 80 to 90% there, that is a huge leap. If you don't only have to rewrite 10 to 20% of your application using tools that, right, someone like these folks put together, that's tremendous. Do yourself a favor and start with getting your application prepared for that longer term maintainability with better architecture.
So I know there's a listener out there who's thinking, what, Blazor? We're just now in the middle of our .NET, web forms to .NET Core MVC migration.
Yeah.
And now we got to do Blazor?
No.
Right?
No, you don't.
So I guess maybe Scott Hunter's the only guy who knows this. Maybe you do. But how many web forms apps are out there that haven't yet been migrated to something more modern?
3. I'll give you the number of units later. 3. There's only 3. It's okay.
Million.
Yes, that might be the units. Sure.
Well, of course, it's one thing to talk about what's public facing, what's internal, right? That to me is the one that gets you, is the tremendous amount of software that's been written that runs inside of companies that's otherwise not visible anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just no incentive to do much updating and maintaining to it. It's like it's an internal plumbing app. It's good enough, and that's where it stays.
But when you know what, security though is a really good reason to move into a more modern platform.
He's not wrong. That's a good motivator. So is ML.NET. If you want to start using some of the machine learning stuff that comes with ML.NET, you want to build and run your own models, you want to run with your own engine inside of your own applications, you're going to want to get into ML.NET. You're going to need to get into .NET Core. Now, okay, you can stand that up inside of an application, run it as a service next to your existing application, and communicate across using HTTP or some other queuing technology maybe to interact, whatever your network protocol might be. If you want to get some of these new features in there, you're going to need to migrate. You're going to need to consider it, but maybe this is where you first start drawing the line and saying, okay, you know what? Anything that needs to interact with this feature, this functionality needs to be in the new technology. And you can start drawing that line and figuring out, well, all right, let's start migrating module X into .NET Core, into Blazor, so that you do have a clear path forward. It all starts with good architecture and how you draw that line of where the old stuff stops, the new stuff starts, and how to cross that line is going to go a long way for you.
Web forms code behind is anything but good architecture, mostly.
But I wonder if that's what you're going to find if you just go through the process of scrutinizing an app to get it up to the current bits. Is we understand this pretty well, and this is not only migratable, it's probably easy relightable in experience tool of your choice.
Yeah.
Or B, this is a pile of snakes, and if you touch the way it dissembles, and we should just greenfield this thing.
Sure.
Taking domain knowledge we have and how people use it so that we kind of know what to build. I've definitely seen both kinds of software where it's like anytime we touch this, it dies.
Oh,
this is a pile of snakes, and we're on a plane, mother trucker.
Oh. Get these monkey fighting snakes off this Monday to Friday plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen those machines where it's in a virtual machine running a version of an OS that's so old you don't even want to admit to it, and even applying a service pack breaks it. Like, that's where you are with this thing.
Sorry.
You're really not going to upgrade anything. You're not going to fix anything. You're just going to look at that and say, this is an example of what our people need, an example of what not to do.
But at the same time, right, I think about Carl's comment about the code behind for a web form, right? And the venting model that happens there, right? We have the same thing in Razor page view models, right? Our page models that we have there. And we're seeing the same thing now with component base inside of our Blazor applications.
Well, there is a separation there, though. I mean, you could do view models in web forms if you wanted to, but nobody did.
Right. But
I mean, having a separate testable place where all your code executes, that's separate from the events.
But there's the catch, right? Is the reason that the web form wasn't testable was because you couldn't construct it. If you could construct it, well, now it's a whole different ball of wax. Now we can do something with that. And if we can trigger the events on our own, and you couldn't trigger the events on your own. So
this is why MVC came along in the first place, right? Is we were getting into these fur balls of ASP.NET apps where you're like, I can't maintain this anymore. I can't build good test harnesses around it. And so, some of us moved over to MVC, some of us didn't. I think what we learned from MVC and what the ASP.NET Web Forms team learned, the later versions of ASP.NET Web Forms got easier to test. I mean, they're not great, but they got better.
Sure, right? Because we had things like model binding. We even brought dependency injection into Web Forms. Yeah.
So that's the thing.
We made it happen. We shoehorned it in there. So it works. It works great. And it will give you that ability to at least consider testing your code behind classes. But I completely agree. Move as much possible out into a view model. Start rethinking that architecture the right way. Modules, handlers, these things in ASP.NET, you're going to eventually need to get them ported into middleware in .NET Core.
Right.
Okay, that's a whole nother ball of wax to do that rewrite, but it's doable, right? You've got a clear one-to-one mapping there.
And you're chipping away at the furball bit by bit, right? Like you're taking those pieces off so that the whatever's scaring you inside that app, and it's always something, you finally get a box around it, right?
Yes.
I've always tried that every piece of software has ugliness. It's only a question is, do you know where your ugliness is?
Amen. Hugo points out you need to get rid of some of those testing barriers like HTTP context. Yeah. That completely changes between the two ASP.NET versions. Don't touch that thing. Don't touch it.
Mock it.
Mock it. Don't even mock it. Model bind everything you can.
Model bind it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Model binding works in web forms, works in Blazor, works in MVC. Model bind that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. Those are the common points. You're going to be able to put those paths together. It's just, I'm immediately thinking about something running ASP 2.0, just and they never got over to MVC. to the templates. Like
Yeah.
I'm not even talking, not even using all the 2.0 features, right? Like that's, and then they are the one. That's the app they want to move. And you're like, we got a lot of work.
You're going to
Isn't
be
that
doing
a country song? I'd rather have a bottle bind than a model bind.
Coming up from Carl Franklin and the Destroyers. Yeah.
It's almost like I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Oh.
Hey, edit point here. We're coming on to the hour. Do you want to do a wrap and then hang out with the stream for a while, or you just want to keep going?
I'm good. I can do that. Sure.
Carl,
I'm
I'm okay. I can stay for a while.
yeah, I don't have a problem going anywhere. It's just a question of whether we're building an end to the show or we just
Yeah,
want
let's end the show. Let's
Okay.
end the show.
to and then stay on the stream.
All right.
all right.
So, Jeff, what's next for you? What's in your inbox, brother?
So I have coming up at the end of September. Are we time shifting? Are we after September? It feels like it's after
No,
September.
you're in a couple weeks.
Okay. So coming up, we've got .NET Conf. Oh man, this is now my favorite conference because I'm the virtual guy. I like being here on the internet broadcasting video. So we've got 3 days of content. The first 2 days live from Microsoft Studios, and we've got all your favorite Microsoft program managers, speakers, engineers talking about great stuff that's coming out as part of .NET Core 3. But at the end of day 2, we turn on the Twitch stream, we turn on the cameras, and we turn them around, and we go around the world 24 hours straight, non-stop. Speakers from every continent are going to be joining us to talk about all the cool things that are happening in .NET in 2019. It is amazing.
And you and I are also going to start streaming for Virtual Dev Intersection again.
Oh yeah. Oh
Starting
yeah.
And I think our last show is going to be on Halloween, which should be a complete train wreck.
We're going to schedule it that way. We're just going to make it work like
I
that.
feel like a third wheel. I'm going to have to get in on this somehow. I'm going to have to get on this streaming thing.
I think for the Halloween show for sure, because it's going to be costume. I got a steampunk costume where I actually have a hat that fits on my head because my wife made it to fit my head.
I have a Halloween costume that will be perfect.
All right, so Carl's on the Halloween show for sure.
There we go. So I will say that Mr. Franklin, we've got a number of brand new Carl Franklin fans here on the channel because they listen to Music to Code By, and they've been really enjoying it here.
Cool.
So that's
Listen to
something.
it whenever I write code, which is almost every day.
Oh yeah.
It's
So
great
that's
that
what's
you can
coming.
do your own product. That's really cool. I use it routinely, but I use it for writing. That's what I've been mostly doing, right? Trying to get all this writing finished.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I listen to it when I make music to code by. No,
That's
all right, Jeff.
Rounded
Thanks a lot, and thanks for letting us invade your space here. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys. It's great having you here.
All right, and we'll see you next time on .NET Rocks.
all right.
Recording.
Here's some
and
exit
we'll-
music. No, that's just wrong. I'm sorry.
Stop.
I better know a framework sucked. That was horrible. Oh my
Uh-oh. Audacity is... Oh, good. It did finish. All right. Save that real quick.
Send me a wave. A wav.
Wow.
Let me see here.
It doesn't interfere with anything. That's good. Well, it seemed like the connectivity survived all of that mayhem too.
Yeah.
It's great.
Mayhem? Us?
Yes, us.
Never.
Never.
It's funny. We have to keep talking about migrating software. Like, we all have baggage in software. It just never goes away.
Yes.
Sometimes way.
Price of
Sometimes
doing
you have to
something like
kill
that.
it.
What
Yeah, it's just nobody ever has a budget for let's do that over again.
Shane Boyer is asking, what was that? What was that music? Are you kidding? You don't know what that was? That's Mr. Trollolo. Yeah, here he comes. I'm trying to make sure I don't blow out Carl and Richard's ears here with the monitor.
We're okay.
No, you spare us, please.
Yeah, I turned it down.
Oh. There he is. There you go. No, so I've loaded up the stream decks. Gosh, Richard, you've seen this when I bring them to Dev Intersection. I have dozens of sound effects, Carl.
Yeah. Especially the Scott one shows up a lot.
So, did you know there are 13 different ways that they say "Great Scott" in Back to the Future?
No, I did not know that, Jeff. I'm disturbed that you know.
There's a reason that I know this.
Scott.
Yes, and there's 4 different ways they say "Great Scott" in Rocky Horror Picture Show. Ask me how I know.
Why would you know that? Nobody needs to know that.
Here's your fucking neck.
Because the chat room has the ability to page their favorite Scott. Let me see.
Okay.
I will chat room now. I'm gonna be nice. I'm going to turn on the chat room ability to trigger some of these sound effects.
Oh, so they can actually fire them? What?
Oh, yes. This is part of the fun that we have. But
okay, this is what you call fun.
Yes, this is what I call work. Let me start. Look at this. Look at this. They're hammering the Scott and the end thens. Oh my goodness.
And
So you the only one that hears it?
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh, they hear. I have my sound off for the stream, so I'm not echoey.
That should be. Let me see. The bot looks like it's running.
all right. Because I
There
heard
it
the
was.
Trollo song, but I didn't hear the
I
other
heard
ones.
that.
It's too far.
Go ahead, hit it again, chat room. Give me another one.
My. That one.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Scott!
Here they
And
come. Yes. They're finding all.
Scott!
Yeah, there are 13 Scott sound effects. And
Great Scott!
the next time I have somebody named Scott on the show, I know the chat room is going to have too much fun with it. Yes, I didn't. Hang on, Code Stencil. I didn't say
Yeah,
JavaScript.
mute that shit for a second. Can you record me doing a bit that you can put in your soundboard?
Oh my gosh, yes, I can. Give me one
Say-
second here, chat room. Hang on, I'm going to mute you.
Do the local. You use your local record, Scott, Carl, for that. You'll get a
Yeah, I
better
could do that.
Yeah.
over the.
You know, it's all. I mean, those are all 8-bit crappy sounding things anyway, so it doesn't really matter,
What?
right?
They're better than that? Let me tell you.
It sounds really, really lo-fi.
Well, it's because I don't have. I'm trying not to blow out your ears
Oh,
here, okay? Can we all use this? I don't know. Rambling.
Digital distortion to me, but
Oh
Maybe.
There.
that sounds better.
That's because.
Everything is awesome.
Yeah.
That's what the code actually compiles, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And then
Well, and then after the code compiles, we have to run the unit tests. There are 12 and thens in that movie.
Yeah.
Why
They're
do
all
you
the
know?
same scene, aren't they?
They are. 6 of them are different.
No and then.
Exactly.
And then-
So, I've got to give credit here, guys. You've got to meet a good friend of ours. She's Fierce Kittens, and
Great
she put.
name.
It's a tremendous name. It's a pseudonym, of course, but like all folks here on Twitch, we've got cool names and fancy jackets.
I don't know that anybody has fancy jackets like you do.
So
That's
she wrote an app using WinForms and WPF to display animated GIFs, videos over the video here on Twitch and play weird sound effects. So, I mean, I've got to give credit. She inspired a little bit of this mayhem that I let folks create here.
Right.
Which intro clip are you talking? Oh, Legendary Moo. Are you referring to my intro clip with Mark Miller? Or are you referring to when I welcome people in raids now? Because now when folks raid me, I play this music. How's it going there, raiders? My name's Jeff, and we write code here. See? Right. Mark has this amazing thing where he has, right, this is our friend Code Rushed on Twitch, Mark Miller. Of course we know Mark Miller.
Yep.
He does this thing where when folks come into his chat room, friends, folks that have been there a couple times, he has a fanfare that plays when they key their first text message into chat. So now when I go into his chat room and I say, "Hey, how's it going, Mark?" There's this amazing hat that comes spinning in, and it's the Visual Studio hat, just like this one, and it spins around and it explodes in this fanfare of C# fireworks that go flying everywhere.
Right back, guys.
Sure.
Well, Miller's got serious animation skills. Like, it's
Yes,
not
he
even
does.
fair.
Oh, yes, he does. So, and you're right, Hat and Sandals Guy, Kittens is so much fun. So she's right. She builds tools using WPF.net for a gaming studio, and it is tremendous. The features, the things that she builds on a regular basis. I cannot compliment. And she's writing code here in the evenings on Twitch.
Yeah.
So another
Okay.
one of the live coders. Now he wanted a WAV file. All right, there's a WAV file. I'll give you a WAV file. So
Good one. I think, the logical thing if I was going to actually stream anything would be doing the research for Geek Outs, which people seem to want. I've been asked to show that forever. I'm just reading and making notes, right?
Guys,
so,
I'm afraid I have to jump off. There's something going on at home I got to take care of.
alrighty, and let me just give you one reference real quick, Carl. Check out 88-bit music on Twitch.
88-bit?
Yep, 88-bit music. The numbers.
8-bit music.
Yep.
Okay.
I think you'll find a kindred spirit.
Great.
Alrighty, catch you later, Carl.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
See you, man.
Yep.
And now it just freezes his picture there. We could just leave his picture frozen there and act like Carl is still here. Hey, look, Carl's still here. He looks so happy.
Fine. Everything's fine. Well, now we're basically doing Dev Intersection TV or virtual Dev
Virtual
Intersection,
Dev Intersection.
Here we are again.
Yeah,
well,
here
this
we're-
is the Coast Rig, so you see how that works.
It looks real nice.
Background.
Yeah, I've got to change up our visuals for the session on Thursday, right? So chat room, we'll be back at about this time on Thursday.
Yeah.
And
Well, so this is the rig. So now you know this is what.
hey, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, is that Legendary Moo? Is that? Oh yes, there's the fanfare from Mark. Yeah. Yeah, that's the clip, and it is amazing. And I love the names that Twitch puts together for naming a
I
clip.
almost think, should I stop the stream? Oh,
There it goes. Tubular Dark Yam Asian Glow is the name of that clip.
Obviously.
I don't know why. Yes, and the amazing Visual Studio hat that comes flying across the screen. We should just keep that frozen image of Carl there. Carl,
Yeah,
it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
And it's just so we could actually take that image, snapshot it, and cut it in half so there's the top half and the lower half, and animate his head like Terrence and Phillip, like a puppet.
Is that like a Canadian? Wait, no, that's not.
Yes, that's not right. That's not right.
That's not right at all.
Oh my goodness. So,
Yeah, bringing Mondays to Twitch, that would definitely be not safe for work. Actually, I started calling Mondays not safe for humans.
oh man, right?
It was remarkably inappropriate. It hit a certain level where it's like, pretty sure he's talking about stapling testicles to the wall by accident.
By accident?
Deliberately. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know that it would. I don't know what filters Twitch has for how far you can go with things. But by the way, the stapling bit, that was one of Mark's bits. So
Oh dear Lord.
of course it was.
Of course
Actually, I
it
don't
was.
think it was a stapler. It might have been a nail gun. Yeah.
A nail gun?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Monday.pwop.com for those who want to listen. Go
Yeah.
find. Oh, it's like,
That's crazy.
nail gun.
Yeah, Copper Beardy, the feature that Fierce Kittens has that does the puppet, that's an actual puppet. You give it two images, and it'll bob the top up and down or the bottom up and down appropriately, based on what it hears over the microphone. Oh yeah.
Expert animators.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And you know what? If you're having fun broadcasting on
Yeah.
a medium like this, why not?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
You know, look at how professional this is. I actually got the lines drawn properly this time. Everything's mostly
Oh, no.
square.
Yeah, it's pretty square. I can't wait to see what the new
The-
virtual dev intersection set looks like, because I know you're tinkering with it.
Yeah, I need to do more work on that. It needs more help.
We have 2 days, brother. 2 days.
Not a problem. That's like 48 hours or something.
Like you have anything else to do.
No, nothing else to do at all. Like 2 other shows between now and then.
Yeah. And,
So-
I've already booked my travel for Ignite. I've got my podcasters lined up. We're working on guests. Like
Nice. All right.
all of that. Yeah, but so far, we'll see.
We will see what
Thank-
happens with Ignite for me.
It's you and me both, brother. I have no idea.
So-
It's the same experience I had with Build. As it gets closer, the pressure gets greater. You'll see, what actually happens.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the release to book travel and hotels yet. I'm
Right.
waiting to see that, and they always hold that to the last minute for us internally. It's okay. You can book travel and hotel.
Just thought, technically I'm considered staff because I'm running the podcasting space.
Okay.
They put me at Regency.
Ooh.
Look at me. I feel pretty fancy.
Ooh. I was at the what was the one right next door on the other side?
They're all variations of the same name too, and that name always jumps out of my head.
Yeah. Right, but it's connected to the end of the convention center, the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando. Yes, that's right. Hugo, you got it right. It's the Motel 6. Of course, that's what it is. Thanks, Hugo. Thanks. Ugh, I tell you. Now, I did not make those lines with Excel cells. No, we did. No, that's not
Is it
Excel.
it's the Rosens, isn't it? It's one of the
Yeah,
Rosens.
it's like the Rosen Center or something like that.
Well, right beside each other, there's like the Rosen Center, and there's like the Rosen Plaza, and there's like the Midpoint by Rosen, and it's like this guy Rosen bought a lot of hotels.
Bought a lot of land.
Yeah,
Got a lot of people staying in his house.
bought old hotels. That's what he did. Like by the
Yeah.
time.
And they're nice hotels. They're really nice. No complaints
Yes,
about
they're
it.
fine. And my experience with a member of the Rosen back in the tech ed days, because I'm old, I remember sitting in the lobby bar of the Rosen Plaza, which had a very good lobby bar. It was huge. There was a bunch of us there. Could not get the attention of the wait staff. And I'll tell you how long. I ordered Domino's and had it delivered to the bar.
Oh my gosh.
The guy with the pizza showed up, and I paid him, that a wait staff appeared. It's like, dude, I would have ordered from you 45 minutes ago. The pizza's here now.
That's a problem.
Apparently, you can't order pizza to a bar. I got in trouble for that.
Well, you didn't order pizza to a bar. It was to a hotel.
Yes.
And actually, I did that last year. I was with the Brady Gaster and the Brady Gaster, of course. And we were with some friends, and they brought pizza from Domino's into the bar. I'm like,
As you do.
I'm not sure we should do this.
Yeah. Well,
And there was
you keep ordering drinks. It's like, and look, I would have ordered more stuff from you. None of you people came around.
There was well, and then there was another night. Yes, Junie. There was another night that we took all of our whiskey out, and we were sitting feet in the pool drinking whiskey.
Yeah.
It was like, this is how to unwind.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
bad at all.
Now, I just was reading a CDC report about chlorine-resistant bacteria in public pools.
Don't say that.
Yeah, the thing at the top of the list is basically stay out of the hot tub. The hot tub's a mistake. The hot tub is a petri dish of bacterial advancement. You're watching evolution in action, and it's trying to kill you.
Yeah. So some of our friends from Twitch, some of the folks in the creative community, were at Dragon Con in Atlanta this weekend. Dear Lord, is that a giant convention?
Oh, crazy.
But while the Sheraton was closed up until about 2 weeks ago for Legionnaire's disease.
Yeah. Speaking of hot tubs, that's the original.
Yeah.
But they actually closed the hotel, like closed the pool complex. But how do you close a hotel because of Legionnaire's disease?
I don't know.
Is in the water pipes? Like that's terrifying.
Yes. So, Fortunately, they opened it up. I mean, in time for the event. But folks were saying there's like 100,000 people in Atlanta just for that conference. It's not a conference. That's a convention.
Yeah, no, it's taken over the whole place. You know who I haven't seen in a while, and she's been in the news lately, is Amy DD.
Amy DD, don't.
Have you met her? Amy's
No.
she's awesome, but she's a maker type. She
Okay.
likes cosplay, and she dissolved her Tesla key in acetone, and then took the RFID that was left behind because she dissolved the rest of the key around it,
Yeah.
and it inserted into a non-biologically responsive slip of silicone and stuck into her arm.
Sure.
Now,
Sure.
Amy, you
Look,
totally get it. Like that's
but
something Amy would do.
hang on.
without it.
She made herself better. She improved herself. She's stronger now. Can control automobiles with her mind.
She waves her arm at her Model 3 and the door unlocks. Yes, that's exactly what happens.
She's literally the $6 million woman.
Yes. Well, and the funny part, of course, is she had an RFID already implanted in the other arm, and she couldn't get Tesla to use the one that was already there, so she used theirs. You know, as you do.
Elon Musk, can we have a real conversation here about RFIDs? Come on.
Yeah. Well, nobody's not nobody, because there's certain hotel chains, and I think it's one of the Hilton sets is now allowing you to use your phone's RFID to open the room doors.
The Marriott does that.
Yeah, maybe it's the Marriott that does it.
I can use my iPhone to open the door. I was using my watch, my Apple Watch, to open the doors in, I want to say it was Knoxville at Code Stock.
Nice.
Yeah. So
To me, that's progress, right? That
Absolutely.
I own an RFID already. I'd like to use it in more places.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Just enable my RFID. Here's what it is. You can turn it off when you're done. Now you don't have to give me one of those stupid cards. Right? I've got a giant stack of these stupid cards.
Well, I don't understand why you keep them.
So that
I mean,
I can
they're
look at it and
simple.
go, wow, I've been traveling.
Yeah,
Right? That's only part of the stack. Look at that.
that's great.
Right?
You
There's
know, I
another
don't
stack
keep
over there.
any. I don't try and keep any evidence of my travels. It's bad enough that TripIt's keeping track of it. By the way, I believe I visited Country 100 this summer. I have to go back over my record keeping again to make sure. But I went to San Marino, and so I believe that is country number 100.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive. Carl, you're not shocked by this?
He seems very staid and calm.
Good. Keto will do that for you.
Yeah, that's keto effects right there.
Right?
The sad part about visiting 100 countries, of course, is that's less than half. There's 202.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're right, Hugo. Carl is not impressed with us at all here. Just
Yeah. Now you've got to cut that clip and turn it into an animation whenever you do some work. Basically, that says, "Yeah, Carl's not impressed."
just
And the code piles instead of the fanfare, it's just a picture of Carl. Not impressed.
Carl just pops up from below the blue line there at the bottom.
Yeah, not impressed. Back down again.
Oh my god.
Yeah, what makes that really hilarious is that's the opposite of Carl's personality. Carl is delighted when the code compiles.
Yes.
The idea of unimpressed Carl, that's a good one.
Oh.
That'll-
No, Copper Beardy thinks that should go with the no command. Right? Because no, I don't think the no sound effect is, of course, Darth Vader. No.
That's what the code doesn't compile.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing you haven't done here. You've got the audio animations, but to actually have animations come on the screen from the stream.
So that's what Fierce Kittens built. And it is
Right.
tremendous. Oh my gosh. So right, we spent the better part of 2 hours converting this hodgepodge application so that it's now .NET Core 3.
Oh my.
Okay, George. With WPF and WinForms. If the game studio she works for is sometimes a little concerned about who she's allowed to talk to. She might be a fun conversation for you guys. I don't know.
I think you mentioned that before. It's just a question of what she's able to talk about, what she isn't. Like we always see, and we deal with this issue all the time, right? Often people's best stories, unfortunately, tie close enough to a company that they're never going to get permission to share that story. Not in a recording.
The conversation she could share with you about some of her former employers. She's openly talked about working on the Warhammer server
That's awesome.
and working on Madden.
Yeah.
So I'm not stepping out of bounds to mention those because she has. Well, and then after Madden, I don't know what else she's.
Well, then they're having a conversation about Electronic Arts, and that's a whole other thing.
Oh yes. Oh, Electronic
man.
Arts.
Well, and I'm up in BC here, where one of the major EA offices is.
Mm.
In the day when I would do talks to colleges and things, because I had lots of friends who worked at EA back when that was a thing people want to do.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work at EA now. It's just extraordinary.
And it's funny. Some of our friends that are down in Palo Alto, particularly somebody who used to work at Microsoft but is now at Stanford, was saying that all the graduates want to go work at Microsoft now.
How did that happen? Like, this is what I'm worried about. Like, I gotta get this book out because I'm sort of hitting a time when people not only are interested in Microsoft, but they're like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
So I share this with the stream. I'll be able to share this with you. I think I have a working title for the history of .NET finally, which is not the history of .NET.
Okay.
I've gone kind of nautical with it. It's coming about how open source and .NET turned the Microsoft ship.
What do you think, chat room? Give us a 1 in the chat room if you like that title. TBD Gamer likes it. All right. No more nautical, says Hugo.
Well, and I make this point because as I've done the research and really, I knew a lot about .NET going in here. For crying out loud, I've been working on .NET Rocks for 15 years. But the thing about talking about people inside of Microsoft about .NET was realizing the cultural shift that was happening at Microsoft to move to open source and cloud sort of driven world.
Oh my gosh.
They were really, but a lot of folks are like, hey, my product's never going to go there. So I'm just going to work on this until I can move to something that is going to be cross-platform and cloud. And then .NET did it. This thing built to be a tool for selling Windows. I mean, let's be perfectly blunt. In 2002, like that's what it was for. It was the competitor to Java, and it was Windows centric, right? Because they weren't allowed to use Java.
And Windows was on 96% of the world. So who cares?
What else would you do, right?
Yeah.
But realize that the world had changed, and it was being held back by that, and that it was possible to re-engineer it without replacing the tooling. Like, that's the miracle if you think about it. You rewrote .NET and you didn't have to rewrite Studio. Like, we change a platform, you change the tooling.
Sure.
Change the platform, change the tooling. Here we go, we switch the platform, didn't change the tooling.
Yeah.
It's kind of astonishing. But I think it also, the energy I get from this and all the research I've done is that this is the example that moved Microsoft itself. It's like, oh, we don't all have to start over. We can migrate, like we can move. And arguably, I still have some research to do in this angle, it was the Entity Framework guys. When Entity Framework redid itself, changed a bunch of things, and published on Coplex. So something that had originally been released as a closed source licensed product was then redone and released as open source. It was very profound inside of the company. I mean, it was one thing for us out in the world. It's like, hey, they open sourced it, ta-da. But when you actually look at the hoops they jumped through, and this is the story I really want to tell, what they went through legally to open source that. And when they succeeded, inside the company was like, what? You could do that?
I think back to the MVP Summit vote of no confidence, right? In the first version of Entity Framework.
Well, and that was just that's when I called them the N-Hibernate Mafia.
Yes. Right? And then
so,
it became alt.net.
Alt.net, because otherwise N-Hibernate Mafia was going to stick. I mean, in as much as we can argue about the tone and style of those guys, the thing that they were saying, which is, hey, don't just use it because it's from Microsoft, use the best tools you can use, and some of them are in the open source community, was legit. N-Hibernate, while it had its warts, and non-trivial warts, that's some of the scariest XML you'll ever meet, it had gone through a lot of the evolution of what an ORM needed to go through, and one could distill that argument down to, like, don't make all the same mistakes. Leverage the learnings that were already there. Now, the Entity Framework wasn't listening, and so they went and made all the same mistakes. But, the case was there, and today, like, hey, hate to say it, like alt.net was right in the end. Like, look at who we are.
Yes.
That argument was going on in 2006, 2007. But when jQuery shipped with 2010, you know, what was
Huge change.
Microsoft should have shipped their own bits. In fact, they were originally working on their own bits, and that argument sunk in. Don't build this. Use jQuery.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it.
And
You know?
a lot changed because of that. A lot changed.
Yeah. Well, it
Um,
was the beginning. There's a series of changes. And like what I think as I'm structuring the book, I'm realizing those moments, and jQuery is definitely one of them. Those are the moments where you're seeing how you turn a ship that big,
oh my gosh, yes.
right?
NuGet's a huge part of that, right?
Yeah.
The ability to ship pieces of Visual Studio as extensions so they can upgrade the extension and not all of Visual Studio, right? The editor, the language services, these things that became parts, and that Visual Studio really became just a frame that shipped with some of those parts built in the box. But as it became more componentized as an IDE, the more flexibility they had, like you're saying, to be able to update the IDE while you're not looking.
Right.
So,
Well, but also I think Studio represents a philosophy about the way you want to do development that's different, right? They literally integrated development environment mindset. This, I want to live inside a world where tools are inserted into it,
Yeah.
as opposed to the VS Code chain, or or your Vim chain, Emacs chain, which is, I have an editor, there's a compiler over here, there's a debugger over here, like there's a series of separate pipeline bits, and the operating system is my environment.
and when I look at how some folks that do use Vim with JavaScript extensively, and I'm thinking particularly of our friend Suze Hinton, No Opcat here on Twitch, and she's using Tmux to split her screen so she can have multiple VI editors and
Right.
a command line that's running and rerunning tests and recompiling and running linters, all these things. You've made your own IDE. It just happens to be
Development
text-based.
improvement. I totally get it. Right? It's fascinating, isn't it? Like, but and so it sort of speaks to, we have something in Studio, this wrapper that allows us to deal with these multiple contexts. I don't think Studio is anywhere near as good as it could be. Like, we're still a ways away from really paring it down to its frame with tools being inserted into it, because that's not how it started.
No. Oh, there's still, all kinds of ugliness in there that is COM32.
Yeah.
Like, one of my most popular clips that people see here on Twitch is me looking at the API, and the API has 5 properties: undefined 1, undefined 2, undefined 3, through undefined 5.
Yes.
Why? But
Yeah.
because that's what you did with COM. Because you didn't want to change your API. Eventually, you were going to use undefined. You weren't going to be able to change the name of it, but it was there.
Yeah, because interfaces were forever.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Right. It's literally, we are dealing with the baggage of the past, and I mean, I have some ontological humility. Like, I don't believe for a moment that those guys did anything other than make the best decisions they possibly could at the time,
Certainly.
with the tools, information that were available then. We always have more of everything later, but
Yes.
then this is what they had. This is the best solution they could find.
Mm-hmm. Carl, do you agree with that? Yeah.
He's really not that impressed.
No. Hugo asks, who does that? Use 1-based items. Right? Everything should be 0-based.
Right.
You call yourself a programmer.
Well, and is it Stelzy79 who says, I think Roslyn was a big piece, and it's, I really enjoy telling the story of Roslyn. I spent hours with Mads and with Anders. But I mean, the thing that's interesting about Roslyn is that it did not start out as cross-platform or open source, right?
Yeah.
The first conversations about rewriting .NET, C# in C# predate all of that. And the problem was that C# took off so quickly that very rapidly the cost of the rewrite was so high they just couldn't justify it. The actual breakthrough, and I'm giving away pieces of the books here, but the moment where they finally could justify it was because of Visual Studio. They got
okay.
to a place where it was very clear that the inline compiler, the thing that did all your syntax checking and so forth, was a separate code base from the actual compiler. And C# was now big enough that the cost of maintaining feature parity between those two things was starting to really add up.
Okay.
And occasionally, one of them was wrong. And so
Funny.
you have like code that Visual Studio thought was fine that wouldn't compile in the compiler. That's bad.
So I actually ran into that during one of the Visual Studio 2019 previews here back in, I want to say April or May, live on stream. We were implementing an interface and it wouldn't compile at the command line. And Visual Studio wasn't highlighting the misimplemented interface as an error.
19, everything is Roslyn, right? There's only
It
one
is.
code base now. So
That's
there
what
was
we
something
thought.
else. Yeah. Oh, is it not true?
There was something where it wasn't configuring and passing the language version properly, and it was trying to use a C# 8 feature that wasn't completely implemented yet, and Visual Studio wasn't completely at the time, because I was in a preview, wasn't
Right.
completely configuring and passing on the information. So
I could see you easily are running two different, because obviously the Roslyn compiler was compiled into Studio.
yeah.
So there is two different instances, and they were different versions.
Right.
Yeah.
Hugo, I think you're right. Visual Studio happily compiled. It didn't put in the little red lines to say, hey, you forgot to implement this part of the interface, or this isn't the right type. It just compiled. But I went to the command line, didn't compile. Like, oh. And that's very much something that they were like, ooh, something's not referencing here properly. We have we've injected the wrong version somewhere, and it wasn't referencing and using it.
You almost think they should have a mechanism for fighting that. That when you build code in Studio, it's laying in, this is the exact version of the compiler that this was checked against. And so you always compile to that version, except that this shouldn't be necessary because it's only during a development cycle here where you're playing in alpha land
Oh, yeah.
that this should ever happen. But it's an interesting thought, isn't it? That built in the jitter should be picking up your code and knowing the precise version that you were building against in Studio, and making sure that's and refusing to JIT if it can't find it for whatever reason.
Sure.
I mean, it was a terrible error. Like, what's this error?
But when you have that level of precision and it knows that much information and it's got the PDBs available, as I change my code, now we're at an interesting place where can't you just swap out those compiled bits on the fly as I'm debugging, right? And that's your edit and continue types of capabilities.
So you want Studio to go grab the newer version on the fly? I mean, that's basically what you're implying, right?
Sure. Right now you've got as much as the same speed and power and flexibility as an interpreted language.
Effectively. You know, I mean, the reality is, it's acting. All an interpreter is doing is continuous complying line by line, right? Like, that's essentially what's going on.
Ralph, hang on. Retro Ralph is asking, is Carl alive? Shh.
Yeah.
Be quiet over there. If you anger him, he might.
Well, he already does.
He might freak out.
I don't think he will.
No, he's Carl.
Just saying. Carl's not impressed.
No.
Oh my.
Well done there, legendary Moo. So, hey, did you see what's the name of the thing, the little lander that SpaceX sent up? Was it over the weekend or late last week? What was it?
Starhopper did its last flight, and they did 150 meters.
Yeah.
And then they got really, really lucky. They believe the engine actually failed during the landing. So if you go back and watch the video closely, and there's some YouTube stuff that have already done this analysis, you'll see a flash come out of the engine, and then as they get close to the ground, it goes bright orange. And people thought maybe it's a throttle down effect and so forth, but it was, I think the engine was eating itself. Something broke.
My gosh. Wow.
And the picture of the actual landed vehicle, the crumple feet, so they did have crumple zones on the feet, are not only crumpled, one of them is off.
Ooh.
And the impact was strong enough that one of the COPVs, which is a carbon fiber bottle that they used to pump most likely nitrogen into the tanks to keep them pressurized, because they're not doing the pressurized loop back yet, broke off, went sailing across the field,
Oh, man.
spinning as it was going. Like, But the vehicle looks like it landed intact, like it looks like a success. But if it had been another couple of seconds,
It would have been disaster.
close. And herein lies the question, which is that was the longest runtime under load of these Raptor engines, and they're just not quite debugged yet. So that was, and then I believe that was engine 6 on the 150-meter Starhopper flight.
Okay.
And they've built up to engine 10 right now. So they're iterating, like they're working
Oh,
through
good.
it. But it's interesting. They've done a ton of testing on the test stand. Why are they still having these problems? And I think because once you have computers continuously fluctuating the throttle to actually hover the vehicle and gimbaling the engine, it's a stress on the engine that you just can't simulate the same.
It's
And so they
continuous improvement.
Improvement, but it's a continuous improvement with a 500,000-pound thrust engine.
Yeah. Whew.
And many of the failure modes are dramatic.
Retro Ralph says, I'm glad Carl's okay. I thought he'd been replaced by an AI or a bot. Carl? Carl?
What do you think? Carl does not approve. But the real question is he in the uncanny valley in that particular posture?
I can't tell.
It's hard to know. I've been talking about the uncanny valley from the perspective of artificial intelligence stuff as well.
Okay.
Way to explain, every so often we get a set of data analysis from software like that, where we get that sort of creeping feeling in the back, like the hairs in the back of your neck stand up. It's like, I should not have figured that out.
No.
It
Yes.
is interesting to just sort of
Yeah.
to in terms of we get creeped out by software every so often.
The vision analysis of things is
Yes.
just so tremendous. I've got this idea and I'm iterating it. I got to figure out how best to do it, but I want to teach the chat bot because it's hooked up to Twitch. It isn't seeing the video, but there is a way to get a snapshot of the video. I want to teach the chat bot how to analyze the video and identify which hat I'm wearing.
You know technology's matured when you really are just genuinely doing dumb things with it, right?
Well, it was either that or do something stupid with cats.
I don't understand why you're not wearing a SpaceX hat. Don't you have a SpaceX hat?
I do have a SpaceX hat. There's one problem with the SpaceX hat.
What's that?
The underside of the brim is green.
Oh, that's a problem.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, my head starts to disappear.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's just the inside part.
Yeah.
You get little glowy in spots. It's interesting. So, apparently they're never going to fly Starhopper again.
Oh.
Last time. Now they're going to start flying the prototype starships.
Oh, cool.
So that's there's 2 of those under construction because they decided to have a competition. I think there was some arguments between the engineering teams to the point where I think Elon's solution was, well, each of you get to build one then. So there's one being built in Boca Chica, which is where you saw the Starhopper flying, and one being built outside of Kennedy Space Center.
Oh, nice.
Which apparently now is hunkered down and locked in place and inside of a building.
Okay.
Because Dorian.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
That's Dorian's just starting to get close to Florida right now. It's going to be today, tomorrow. So,
yeah. So my brother-in-law runs fishing charters out to the Bahamas.
Not right now.
No. And his folks that he deals with out in the Bahamas, they're going to have a little bit of a problem for some time here.
Are they even online? I mean, you come to recognize, doing this stuff with Humanitarian Toolbox and things, I've come to appreciate the scariest thing is they don't answer, right? Like that means that nothing's gone wrong, that the infrastructure is fully broken.
So I thought it was interesting. I saw a video come out. It was somebody was evidently with their phone took some video on the second floor of their house, and you could see the waves coming in the lower floor and up the stairwell. Well,
they're talking about a 23-foot storm surge. So a bunch of stuff appeared during the eye. So first half had come through. They were you're in this window. I've had this experience in a Cat 1, so don't think I know anything. But I've had this experience in a Category 1 where the storm's blasting away, it's chaos and noise, and like you couldn't be heard on a phone if you wanted to be. The wind is so loud. It's like a locomotive running beside you. And then literally you pass into the eye. The sun comes out.
Yes.
right? Because it's open all the way up, and you've got about, depending on the size of the hurricane, 15, 20 minutes, and people shot videos.
Well,
somehow the communication still worked, and they sent these insane pictures.
We rode through Superstorm Sandy here at the house, and when we hit the eye, when we had that 20 minutes, I took the dog out to pee. The dog had to go. We gotta.
It was the right time.
It was the right time. All right, you done, D? Let's go. We got to get back.
Get inside and hunker down for the next half, going the other way.
Yes. So I don't have too much more time here. I need to take the girls out. We got to take care of the horses, as you do.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you, something that I think we need to talk about and make happen at some point. You've done a lot with Humanitarian Toolbox, and I've got this vision, I've got this concept of let's do a hackathon on Twitch. Let's bring in a couple of the live coders, go across a couple different channels on Twitch, and hey, you want to watch how the server side stuff is built? Well, check out channels X, Y, and Z. You want to see how some of the client side stuff is built? Well, here's A, B, and C. The mobile app? Oh, well, here's the folks over here that you can see. And collaborating across maybe a dozen different channels, folks in the community being able to watch, and maybe over a weekend or a few weekends, build something together with the community, with a bunch of streamers, the live coders that we've been talking about. Hey, this is something cool that we could do together, but we need to find the right project.
Yeah, and that's the Layer and Lines challenge, which is interesting you bring that up, because I mean, one of the things challenges we're facing with HG Box right now is a project like Already is mature enough that it's almost not hackable anymore. The skill, the information you need to get into that project is high enough that we really don't have beginners joining the project anymore. We have a cadre of about 100 or so contributors who are familiar with it enough that they can continue to work in the code base and choose to. But it's interesting, and I'm resisting the adrenaline nature of disaster response because I think it's got its own toxicities. Yes, we need to get working right away, but building new software during a crisis is just not a good idea. You need to be exercising that software rather than writing new stuff. And so, but we're also paying the consequence for having matured a set of software that we just operate on, that you can't do a lot of that broad reach stuff. That being said, there is some negotiations going on now for some new projects that we think are going to have fairly broad reaching ramifications. It's maybe 2 or 3 months away still. There's a lot of conversation that goes on before you launch something like this.
Sure.
That it might be one of the possibilities, because we were doing these as codeathons in venues, right? And we'd have
at conferences
once, and they would share, and often they would connect with each other and share what they'd done, at the end of the day kind of thing. But turning it up a notch with Twitch, and still you wouldn't stop anybody working from home from being able to contribute to it on GitHub. Like, there's no reason we couldn't be taking mutual contributions. Heck, it might be interesting to have one stream that's just somebody doing PRs.
Sure.
One of the project leads looking at the PRs and having that debate, so you have the other side of that conversation, both with other streamers and with anybody contributing, to say, here we are, why don't you hop on Skype right now, we'll pull you in and let's talk through your PR.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Really interesting idea, Jeff. Also, it's a great example of just the reality of building software, especially in an open source model. Like, nobody does this in the dark, right?
No.
Especially in the case of HT Box projects, where we do a lot of planning in advance. We're not really asking people to invent things from scratch here. We're going to build a set of work items of the things we know the customer needs or the customers need. And so you can come at each of those work items and talk to us about them before you take them on.
Hey, I want to let me interrupt you for one quick second. You're right on that. I want to thank Jason Langsdorff. Just rated us. It brought over 8 viewers from his stream. Thanks so much for joining us. And I'm here with Richard Campbell. Carl Franklin is he's not impressed.
He's not impressed at all. No.
We were recording a .NET Rocks, but Richard and I are talking through maybe running a Humanitarian Toolbox, a charity coding series of streams here on Twitch. Maybe there's something there that we can work on together.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just to think about also the part of this is modern open source development, right? Like we the old culture of open source, and I'm sorry if I'm going on too long, Jeff. I know you.
No, it's fine. Go. You're good.
there was an aspect of old school open source that was very male. You know, here's this. Here, I mean, most open source projects were tools for developers. So it's like, hey, I need this thing at work, and I think it applies to other things. So let me, I think about a guy like the like AutoMapper, like Jimmy Bogart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's a tool he needed. He let other people use it, and often when we contribute to it, it was sort of driven by this. Hey, I'm using it this way, and it doesn't do well the way I want to use it. There's sort of that confrontational part of I can make contributions to this because I'm this smart, and which is not HTBox's culture at all, because we were building software to save lives,
right?
And so there was a lot more. We didn't ask you to be the smartest person in the room and come up with the best idea of thing per se. It's like you still get to code the way you want to code, but we had a plan.
Yeah.
We pretty sure we spent a long time with these disaster relief guys, and they're pretty certain about the way they want things. And so building out that plan so that anybody could contribute, and some of them are more complicated and some of them are easier. We're not telling you how to build it. Often there's a tool set. But the creativity is in the coding part, not in the what do we need to build part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like the culture we got from that. It was way more inclusive. It was a really nice group of people.
And that's why I think there might be some synergy here with bringing together a bunch of folks that are Twitch streamers, writing code live here, being able to share that and talk through things. There's an idea, someone suggested here, either use Visual Studio Live Share, do squad streaming so you can see both sides of the video going on at the same time, but having little work groups, because a squad stream can have as many as 5 people streaming together.
Wow,
and you can click
like...
exactly.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So, let's talk about this over the next few months. Maybe there's something we can do there.
For me, it's always about not wasting people's time too.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks to write software that nobody uses.
It does. Oh my gosh.
So for me, the working part on this has been because of .NET Rocks and the things that I've done. It's been pretty easy for me to engage with developers to work on something.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way they got to use it. So for me, the battle has been working with the individual charities and with the FEMA folks and so forth, who they have very strict guidelines. Like getting software into their hands that they'll actually use, not a trivial problem. They test hard. They ask difficult questions like, how does this beat pen and paper? Right? Like it's
yes.
How's it going to work when only a 2G network is running at that time? Like these are questions we need to answer.
Those are not easy questions.
No, and they're legit too. But at the same time, it's like, look, I'm not going to ask developers to donate their time.
No,
who can't use their code.
So
if everybody's frustrated, like it takes longer than you think, it's like I'm just trying to do right by everybody when we do these things.
Right, Carl? No, he's not impressed.
He's really not that impressed. I'm just.
Well, I do need to wrap up. That was one of the daughters. You know what? I'm going to set up a raid call here real quick, and
okay.
And we're going to connect folks over to our friend Corey Hurricane Weathers. That's his, of course, his real name, Hurricane Weathers, because he's a superhero for Twilio. We're gonna raid. He is CLW here on Twitch. Helps if I spell it right. DUB. There we go. Thanks for the shout out there, Hugo. We're gonna set up to raid CLW. And send all of our viewers over there. Send all of our love. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Really appreciate you joining us for our recording with .NET Rocks. A little bit of chatter afterwards. Thank you so much, Richard. And Carl, I know you're not that impressed, but we had a good time together, okay?
And I'll see you Thursday, friend.
Yes, we will see you Thursday for Virtual Dev Intersection. And then
after Kathleen Bellard comes, who's next? Mark Miller. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. All right. Take care, friends. We'll see you. All right. We're out.
Fantastic.